My name, as you know, is Mukesh Sud, and I have the pleasure today to introduce Mukesh Bansal. So you have two Mukeshes on stage, and one of them is going to sing a song at the end. And I don't sing. Look, as a retired entrepreneur and now as an academic, I found the book mesmerizing. It gives you so much of detail, so much of information, so many startup stories. So Mukesh, firstly, super, very nice book.
Thank you.
Let me start by asking you that in the jacket of the book, you clearly mention that starting a company is like getting into deep trouble. There are failures, there are a few successes. Why would anybody become an entrepreneur?
No, I think that's a very good question. I was talking to a friend of mine who is a veteran in Silicon Valley, been there for 30 years, top positions and so on. And his thinking was starting. He said everybody I talked to, like the entrepreneur friends that he respects, everyone told him to not do it. And I said my first reaction is also not do it. Then I explained to him the reason people say not do it, because they are setting a clear bar for you, that you need to want to do it so much that despite every your well-wisher telling you you should not do it, in some ways a warning about how difficult the path is going to be. The reality of startup is first 3-4 years are very tough. It doesn't matter who is doing it, whether you've done it before or not, nothing changes, because that figuring out journey is, there's really nothing parallel to that. In our academic life, in professional career, we never encounter these situations where for most questions, the answer is, I don't know. You have to figure it out. It's so much ambiguity. So that's why, I think that's why I start the book, by the same usual warning. I think that warning is a filter that there is something deep inside me that really want to do this, whether it's about the journey or the idea or the people you are with, or a sense of, there is a big mega trend that you want to be part of it. If only when you're deep down, you want to do that and you start, then you will have the stamina to last the journey.
Okay, so a question I often get asked is, as an academic, can entrepreneurship be taught? Or is it a life skill that you are born with and you don't have a choice if you don't have it? What is your experience?
Yeah, so I'll answer differently. When my daughter was born, my go-to thing for everything is let me learn from the books. So I read a lot of books on parenting, before she was born, 4 or 5 different books, and I felt, okay, now I know everything about, what to expect. And obviously, first night, for being in the house, everything went out of the window, and you have to learn everything over the next 2-3 years. So I think in some ways, entrepreneurship, I feel the course that you teach, Mickey, or let's say a book like mine, etc., they're mostly to prepare, for what the journey ahead may look like. So you're walking in with your eyes wide open. You avoid some standard mistakes that a lot of entrepreneurs tend to make. I have a whole chapter on this, on why startups fail. I had to edit it down to just 10 or so reasons, because initially I came with almost list of 25 or so. So I think just being aware of what you are getting into, what to avoid, when bad things happen, when things are not going to, what kind of mindsets and tools to fall back into, who to talk to, that makes the journey a lot more navigable. But ultimately, it's something you have to learn by doing.
Okay, so you raised this chapter about why startups fail, and I saw 2 reasons you have given, which seem to be the opposite. Yeah. One is the lack of capital in initial stages, and the other is too much capital. Now, how do you
Yeah. See, one of the things I mentioned in the book at some point that, what I've seen the startup journey, often the both contradictory positions are simultaneously true. There is this, saying about the sign of a first-rate intelligence is to be able to hold 2 opposing ideas together and yet retain the ability to function. So I see, whether profit or growth. So those kind of contradictions are, surprisingly very much part of a startup journey, including this one. Yes, most startups, if they fail in year 1 or 2, when you talk to people, they will say because we failed to raise money, and that's superficially correct. There are usually deeper reasons as well. And then you also look at the companies which raise huge amount of money. Most of them don't end up doing well, because with this, it brings its own excesses. Whenever someone raises, including me in the past, and raised a lot of money, you feel you have arrived, you earn the right to do all kind of crazy things together, and you burn through the money fairly quickly. And by the time you realize, it's usually too late, or it takes huge reinvention. So yeah, I think one needs to be. I think both are true. One needs to be aware of both patterns. And as you are falling into those patterns, being able to recognize that and do something about this deliberately is how you keep improving your odds.
Thank you. One thing I tell my students all the time is that we talk about entrepreneurial failure, but what we are looking at is the failure of the company, not the failure of the entrepreneur. And these are two distinct, different things. So rarely would an entrepreneur fail and not do something else. And that's something that I keep highlighting to students all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes language does as a big disservice. I think in entrepreneurship, failure is a wrong word in my opinion, because what is happening is it's an attempt. Let's say somebody gets into cricket team, and you first few matches you don't score. That doesn't mean you are a failure. You are discarded completely. Like, this is how you get exposure to the game you're trying to play. So first 2-3 years of an entrepreneurial journey, I think that's the best learning curve that anyone can possibly have, because that's the time you are playing without any protection, any fallback. You are using your wits every day to figure out how to navigate this. So a learning curve dramatically accelerates. I see in a lot of companies now there's a recognition. Again, unfortunately, people call them failed entrepreneurs, but they are very much in demand. I would hire a failed entrepreneur any given day, because what that person brings to a table is very, very difficult to learn in a stable corporate environment. I think I talk about this in the book multiple times, that once you're starting a startup journey, you need to accept all possible outcome. One can probably almost like a Gita's mindset of just focus on what you can do and not worry about the outcome, because outcome is not only function of what you will do. There's so many other factors that are beyond your control. In the book I talk about 2013 is when I felt, Myntra was finally doing something right. We were at the right place, right time, right team. In fact, one of our team member, Gautam, is right here in the audience, who was there. But it was very bad time for Indian economy. 2013, people remember, it was last days of UPA government. India's stock was overall very down, no FDI. And we just could not raise money. We have to have 2 rounds of layoffs and so on. So now that was something that is beyond our control. And company, came to me shutting down. In fact, I start the book with the story of how we had less than 1 week of runway left, and somehow miraculously we managed to survive that. But it easily could have ended at that time, and that would have been fine. So I think what you learn during those few years of startup attempt, I think is immensely helpful. Whether you go back and start something again, or you back into corporate journey, you will have able to learn quickly, take initiative, take risk, build teams, and so on. Were immensely valuable skills.
Tell me, Mukesh, you have talked a lot about the mindset, and now with Carol Dweck's book on a mindset, which is so popular, how would you describe an entrepreneurial mindset? How is that different from a corporate mindset?
Yeah, I think someplace in the book, I don't know whose quote is this, but something like this, the day you go from saying, it is not my problem, to everything is my problem, is the day you become an entrepreneur. So I think that's the core part of, as an entrepreneurs, you really have no excuses, no one to blame, whether you are not able to recruit people, you don't have money, your product is not good, your customers don't like you, you are having issues at home because you're spending so much time at work. All of these are your problems you have to deal simultaneously. So being able to take all that stress, somehow manage, survive that grinder and come out of it alive makes you a very different person. So I think for me, entrepreneur mindset, that is one aspect to it. There are many aspects, I think, but ultimately, the true sense of ownership, that I am fully accountable. I'm not going to go back to anything in the past or to other people. I'll stop making excuses. I think that is the core of what it takes to be an entrepreneur.
If you had to repeat the mantra journey all over again, how would you do it differently?
I don't know. I'll probably not do anything differently, because I'm in the middle of a fresh startup now, which started last year. And I'm realizing that I have to navigate things all over again. It's a very different time now, different opportunity, different domain. So I don't necessarily, this whole idea of, in the Zen, there is the idea of beginner's mindset. I think that's super important for entrepreneurs. You don't often see too many repeat entrepreneurs, because what happens is, if I'm successful in one company as an entrepreneur, then I feel, I know all the rules, I know how it is done. So you stop learning, you start operating from this high pedestal as if you know how the game is played. you will have all these blind spots, you are making all the mistakes, you lose connection with the on-ground reality. So I think my approach is, if somebody like myself, starting second time, third time, try to operate more as a, pretend as if you're younger and, try to operate from beginner's mindset, not take too many things. You need to be aware of some broader patterns and some of things will not go well and you should recognize those patterns, if you are, let's say, not managing your burn well or certain type of people you don't want to hire in the past, you had those things. So those are things I'll avoid, but I'll still try to really enjoy, that beginner's mindset approach as opposed to, proven entrepreneur mindset.
Now tell me, you have operated in many different fields, very different domains. Do you think having operated in one domain, you have an advantage when you start a second time and the third time, or is the challenge very similar?
Yeah, I think it's both advantage and disadvantage. One thing is, the beauty of a startup is a great level playing field. See, we don't see large established conglomerates, they have everything. They have surplus capital, they have huge customers, they have huge talent pipeline, regulatory connection, whatnot, but they don't come up with the breakthrough innovation. So, when you have deep domain knowledge, yes, you know the insights of the industry, you have all the network and connection, but you also have all the blind spots. It's a, when we hire somebody from, let's say in a startup environment, from established industry for domain knowledge, they bring the domain knowledge, but they also bring too many of this can't be done. Now for a startup, this can't be done. If you believe in that, then you shouldn't have started in the first place. So I think finding the balance, where you understand the intricacies of a particular domain, but yet, retain that openness in the outsider's perspective. Whenever we hear of any story of disruption, it's almost always the people from outside the industry who come in, they bring different thought process. So you have to somehow educate yourself about the domain, but not learn all the things which are also possibly wrong in how the domain has evolved over a period of time.
Yeah. See, that reminds me that Elon Musk is supposed to avoid recruiting people who have worked with NASA before, simply because he says you come with too much of background and too much of knowledge of how things are actually done, and they can't think differently. On another subject, which is luck, which you have talked about in the book, how can you be prepared to be lucky?
Yeah, just reacting to your NASA thing, looks like Musk is pretty much running NASA now. So how times have changed significantly. Luck is this is other very integral part of I think how the startup journey unfolds. Yeah. I'm sure everybody's heard that whole thing. The harder I work, the luckier I get. So I feel the luck is absolutely going to play a big role. There are a lot of entrepreneurs I know personally who have done nearly everything right, but they just did not get the lucky break. And that's a very legitimate outcome of a startup attempt. But one way to ensure that you get better probability of catching the right luck to just stay in the game long enough. So I emphasize a lot in the book that if you're going to start a startup journey, spend considerable amount of time preparing for the journey. So mindset-wise, creating some longer runway for you, right set of people to partner with. And if let's say for example, I do something and my window is 18 months. Now in 18 months, something may or may not happen, right? Maybe my lucky break was going to happen 1 year down the line after I folded shop, but I will never, around to see that. But if you can stay in the game for 4 or 5 years, which will require a lot of resourcefulness, a lot of preparation, chances of you catching the lucky break is high. Mindset again comes to picture. Sometimes what happens is, luck is staring you in the face, but you are not prepared. I'll give you one real example from Intra. Twice, actually, I'll give you 2 examples. So once, we are doing very personal, in the niche business, selling these personalized products online, so on. In 2010, we got an email from one of the IPL teams that they wanted us to do personalized jersey for them. Somebody from the team saw that email, thought not relevant, and didn't reply. And it was just lying, in that unresponded. Accidentally, 3 weeks later, I happened to just go through some customer service emails. I saw that email again. I was like, are you guys crazy? Why have we not responded to this? And I just, on the weekend, I scrambled. I replied to that, found some number, called. And by Sunday, that guy was in our office. And we got the contract for the IPL team, which eventually led to this big contract with Nike for the 2011 World Cup. So that's just luck, right? Luck came to us via email, and we chose to ignore, and very easily would not have done. And Mintra journey would have unfolded differently. the exactly same. I'll not go into details of the story, but one of our first big investor, Lee Fixel from Tiger Global, again, he was looking for he was more interested in sports retailing online. We were in personalization, but talking to them, we realized that we can probably pivot and go after that domain. And again, that conversion led to significant change in our business model, which led to Lee funding us and so on. So you need to also have, there is this phrase people say, strong opinions loosely held. So entrepreneurs need to very, very deep, strongly believe in something, but need to also keep that openness that something winds are flowing in a different direction. I should be able to let go of my holy cows and maybe attempt something different.
Very interesting. You talked a little bit about when you are growing, you are constantly seeing opportunities to acquire companies, and you're constantly being solicited by other companies to be acquired. Now, how do you balance the two, and how do you take a call on that?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, see, it goes to, what are the fundamentals, beliefs and principles. One is no one should build a startup with the intention of selling. Because if you you will not have a long-term vision, you will not have passion, people will not believe your story. So every single day you have to believe, I am building this company forever. So you will approach it differently as a result of that choice. Second thing, startups, at different stage of journey, see, you can't be best in everything. There are equally competent entrepreneurs out there. That convinced me, that's the right thing. I never really thought about Series before, but after a few months of deliberation, I thought that's the right path forward for all the stakeholders involved, and I think that that merger worked out beautifully.
Okay, I have one last question. We just have 5 minutes left, and I'll open it up to questions from the audience. But you say VCs end up driving your company, and you were a little worried about that. And talk a little bit more on the role they play versus the founder.
VCs are critical enabler for the whole the entrepreneur journey, because see, all of us, we are no longer building company over generations, which is organic. You generate little bit of profit, reinvest, and so on. That takes many, many decades. We want to build an amazing company in 10-year time frame, which requires capital from outside, which is what professionals VCs bring to a table. I think figuring out the relationship with the VCs is very important, and their role. In fact, one of our early backers, Ranjit, is also here in the audience from Chirati Ventures. And the relationship changes over a period of time. At early stage, you look for VCs for mentorship, etc. At later stages for introductions and so on, governance, the board. It needs to be a relationship of equals. I think sometimes entrepreneurs try to take too much control and ignore VCs, which is not right, because when times are difficult, then you need to fall back on them as supporters and so on. And sometimes VCs become overbearing as well, which is also not right, because the fundamentally VCs are saying, you are building the business, I am betting on you. So therefore, as VC, they need to give you enough space and runway. And if they don't have the conviction in your competence, then they need to have a conversation with you that, okay, you may have been good founder, but now this time has come for professional management, and that need to be amicable choices, amicable choice between the two parties. When that is not navigated well, then it just leads to bad blood and a lot of anxiety within the system, and just not good for anyone.
Well, thank you very much, Mukesh. We'll throw the yeah.
Hi. Hello.
We can't hear you. Is there another mic that side?
Hi. Mahesh here. I'm a big fan of your podcast and your earlier two books. As an avid fitness enthusiastic and a serial entrepreneur, what specific systems or a playbook would you give to a person who's trying to pursue both starting up and pursuing a fitness goal? Or would you suggest, take one as your main goal and the other one on the back foot?
Yeah, I mean, so my first book, No Limits, was exactly to address this question that all of us want to do a lot of things in life. All of us a limited period of time. So how do we find that balance? I think it goes to the heart of, one is, what is foundation for you? For me, my health and fitness has been foundation. I will not do anything, which comes in the way of that. And I have, throughout my entrepreneurial journey, I have not compromised on that. And that has given me a lot of longevity. Startups takes long period of time. So how do you maintain your stamina and energy? I think by investing in your health and fitness. It doesn't take that amount of time. I mean, just sleeping 7-8 hours and 1 hour of fitness and being mindful about food, it still leaves you 10-12 hours. Second thing I think is none of us can, work in a highly focused mode for more than 9, 10 hours in a day. Again, I can't work more than 10 hours a day. So I think you have to now focus on how do you get the maximum productivity out of those 10 hours. What leverage you can create, what habits you're building, who you're working with, and then, I mean, there are people, you can live enough and more examples of people who do incredible things in those 10 hours. It all boils down to how much leverage you're able to create on top of the 10 hours.
There's a question there. Yeah, go ahead. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, Mukesh. My name is Namrata. I'm asking for a friend, actually. My question is, how you mentioned for the first 3-4 years, it's, when you start a company, you're hustling really hard and you're putting your all into it. So during that time, it's very easy to sort of, relationships and your personal life takes a backseat. And how do you strike a good, what is your advice? How to strike a good balance such that, you don't lose out on family and friends and, you lose yourself into it?
Yeah, I think one, very simple framework, that I borrowed from someone. I mentioned in the book that, you take, let's say you have 10 points to allocate. You first figure out what is the most important thing in your life. It could be health, it could be family. You allocate, some points from 10 to that. What is the second most important thing? You allocate to that, and everything else to the company you're trying to build or the project that you're ambitious about. So that way you are, whatever is the most core to you, you are absolutely protecting that. For me, that was health and spending time with my kids. There's nothing would come in the way. And that still left, plenty of time to focus on the startups. I had to eliminate many other things, a lot of social engagement. And so you have to make some compromise, but you can be very deliberate and mindful about what you will not compromise on.
Yes, we have a question here.
Hello. Hello, I'm Rahul. So I will pardon me for asking the most cliched question, but what will be the right time to start a startup? Like when you have a great idea, or when you are too bored, or too bored for the whole corporate life and everything.
So before Mukesh jumps in, read the book. He has an entire chapter on that. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything we're covering is obviously the whole book is about the startup journey. But I think the right time to start is when you are ready, and you have to prepare yourself for that. You have to, acquire some skill set. You need to have some financial runway so you can stay in the game long enough. You have to start in an area that you are deeply passionate about it. Otherwise, you will get bored of something. Fads will change and so on. I think any time is a great time to start as long as you are ready. In future, there will be more opportunities than today. So take your time, prepare yourself well, and start when you're truly ready.